This video is on exponential equations. We're going to look at all the differences between exponential growth and decay. We're going to look at the difference between the word factor and the word rate, and to know which one we need. So exponential growth and exponential decay use the equation y equals a times b raised to the x power. Now, this is the way we would like to see it, but it's not the way we will always see it, because the b is your factor, but we might see the rate as part of the problem. So when we look at exponential growth and decay, we have to know which one we're dealing with. We will have exponential growth and decay will have a 1 if we're dealing with something with the rate, not with the factor right now. Growth is when we're going to add our rate, and decay is when we will subtract our rate. Now, the letter R is the percentage rate. It'll give you a percentage. This will need to be written as a decimal only. That means that you have to change it into a decimal. So again, R is your percentage rate. We need to change this to become only a decimal. We do not want to see the percentage any longer. The thing is that we need the B value. We need to know what value goes in here. That is our B. B is our growth or decay factor, which is that 1 plus R. This is the number we actually want, our growth factor. This is the number we really, really want. Same thing with our decay factor. Our decay factor is 1 minus R. B is what we want. This is our decay factor. We need the factor to determine what we're multiplying by each time. But if we're given the rate, we can find the growth or decay factor. And that's what we're going to do. So these first questions say determine the growth or decay factor of each. The factor is the number inside the parentheses. That's the exact number we want. So we need to determine, is it growth or decay? This number on the first one, inside the parentheses, your B value, is bigger than 1. This is a growth. And the factor is the number inside of here. So it's a growth factor of 1 and 22/100. That is your growth factor. Question 2, your B value is smaller than 1, so this is a decay factor. And the factor is the number inside of the parentheses, or what is raised to the exponent. So your decay factor is 78/100, which is exactly what we want. On question 3, we have no parentheses. So what's being raised to the exponent? This entire 1 and 9/100 is being raised to the exponent of x, and our starting value is technically a 1 there, because that's 1 times all of that outside of it. So if we're looking at our factor, it is the number that is being raised to the exponent. So it has the exponent attached to it. This value is bigger than 1, so this is a growth factor. And the entire factor is the number inside. That is 1 and 9/100. On question 4, the exponent is attached to the parentheses, so we have parentheses again. This number inside our factor is smaller than 1, so this is a decay factor. And it is the number that's inside, it's 91/100. Factor is the one we want. Rate is used to find the factor. Factor is the one we want to write the equation. So on these next ones, it says determine the growth or decay rate of each. And we have to write our answer as a percent. So the difference here is that we're given the factor, but we need to find the rate. This is our good equation. This is the equation we want. But if I ask what is the rate of decay or rate of growth, you have to write it as a percentage. So we look at our growth or decay factor. We have a decay right here because this is smaller than 1. So we have a factor of 73 hundredths. We need to turn this into a percentage right now so we can determine our decay rate. This turns into 73%. How far away is this from 100? So rate is how far away from 100. 73%, which is 27% away from 100%. That's our rate. That means that since it's decaying, our decay rate is equal to 27%, because that's how far away it is from 100. We don't see this number inside the equation because it's the rate. For question 2, we look at our factor. We have 1 4/1000. We need to change this to a percentage, so we move the decimal twice. This is 104/10%. This is a growth because it's bigger than 1. This is going to be growth. So we need to determine how far away this is from 100%, which is, 0.4%. So I can just take 100 away from here and I'm left with 0.4. So it's 0.4% away from 100%. So our rate is going to be that 0.4%. This was a growth rate is equal to 0.4%. We use our factor, which is what we want, to determine our rate. So again, if we look at number 3, this is in parentheses, and we have it as a 1 times on the outside. Our A value would be 1. So we look at our factor, which is 97 hundredths, and we turn that into a percentage, which is 97%, because we move the decimal twice to the right. This is 3% away from 100, so which is 3% away from 100%, because if I added 3, I'd get to 100. That means that since it is below 100, it is a decay rate is equal to the 3%. We don't see that number in here, and that's fine, because the rate we have to get from the factor. We have to use the factor. On 4, we have f of t equals 3 raised to the t. So same type of thing. We have 3 raised to the t. That is in parentheses. And there's a 1 as your starting value. So we take our factor of 3 and we change that into a percentage. The decimal for the 3 is after the 3. So we move it twice to the right. This is 300%. So how far away is 300 from 100? Which is 200% away from 100%. Now, 3 is bigger than 1, so this is a growth. And we're going to have a growth rate of 200%. So we take our factor, turn it into a percentage, and determine how far away from 100 it is, because percentages are in hundreds. Remember, we want the factor to write the equation. So if we're given the rate, we need to write the factor. And that's what we're doing on this next one. We need to write the growth or decay factor so we can write the equation. The factor is the main thing we need, but we're going to be given the rate. we need to determine using the rate and how far away from 100 that will take us. So on number 1, it says 13% growth. That means that it's going to be added to 100%. So our factor is that 1 plus or 1 minus the rate. So we're going to use that b equals 1 plus the rate as a decimal only, not a percentage. Or we're going to do b equals 1 minus the rate as a decimal only, depending on if it's growth or decay. So for number 1, it says it's growth. So we're going to have 1 plus the decimal rate, not the percentage. We're going to take this 13%, and we need to change it to a decimal. So we're going to take our decimal after the 13 and move it to the left twice because we're undoing the percentage. So this is equal to 0.13 only. Since it is a growth, we're going to do b equals 1 plus the 0 and 1300ths. So our growth factor, our b value is 1 and 1300ths. Question 2, we need to change the 7300ths percent into just a decimal. So we're going to take our decimal and move it to the left twice. And we're going to add zeros in. So we end up getting 0.0073 is our actual rate as just a decimal. Since it is a decay, we're going to do b equals 1 minus 0.0073. So we're actually going to subtract that. We get our factor, our decay factor, as 0.9927. And again, that's actually subtracting the values. This is the value we would put into our equation for exponential growth and decay. This lets us know that it is decay as well because it's smaller than 1. So number 3, we have a 37% decay. So let's take our 37% and change it to just a decimal. So we have our decimal after the 7. We're going to move it to the left twice. 1, 2. This gives us 0.37, so 3700ths. Since it is a decay, we're going to do b equals 1 minus that decimal value. So 1 minus 3700ths is equal to 6300ths. That is our decay factor. This is the part that we put into our equation. This is what we would multiply into our now next. And the last one is we have 200% growth. So we're going to take that 200ths percent. We got to move the decimal twice to the left to get rid of the percentage. We're going to add in zeros into any of the spaces. This gives us 0.0002 as our decimal. It is a growth, so we're going to do b equals 1 plus 0.0002. So we get our growth factor as b equals 1.0002. So again, we need our factor, we need the b value by either adding or subtracting it to 1.